Good afternoon, friends. This is Joshua. Today I will be reading a selection from Book 1 of On the Nature of Things by Lucretius. We'll be reading from the 1743 edition published by Daniel Brown. We do not know who the translator of this edition was. It was translated anonymously in 1743, but I would like to read a selection from the introduction to give you an idea as to why it may have been translated anonymously. This is a disclaimer of the kind that was very, very common in all early editions of Lucretius. And it goes like this. Here I would have it be understood that I translate Lucretius only as a classic writer of the first rank, and one of the venerable fathers of Latin poetry, without thinking myself accountable for his principles or justifying his system. And whoever apprehends the design of this work in any other view is a person of narrow and stinted conceptions. He is a precise fanatic in the Republic of Letters, and a secret and ignorant enemy to human learning. Well, there you have it. This is an extremely dangerous book. With that in mind, I give you Book 1 of On the Nature of Things by Lucretius. Mother of Rome, delight of men and gods, sweet Venus, who with vital power dost fill the sea bearing the ships, the fruitful earth, all things beneath the rolling signs of heaven. For 'tis by thee creatures of every kind conceive, rise into life, and view the sun's bright beams. Thee, goddess, thee the winds avoid, the clouds fly thee in thy approach. With various art the earth for thee affords her sweetest flowers. For thee the sea's rough waves put on their smiles, and the smooth sky shines with diffused light. For when the buxom spring leads on the year, and the genial gales of western winds blow fresh, unlocked from winter's cold, the airy birds first feel thee, goddess, and express thy power. Thy active flame strikes to their very souls, and then the savage beasts, with wanton play, frisk o'er the cheerful fields, and swim the rapid streams. So pleased with thy sweetness, so transported by thy soft charms, all living nature strives with sharp desire to follow thee, her guide, where thou art pleased to lead. In short, thy power, inspiring every breast with tender love, drives every creature on with eager heat, in seas, in mountains, and in swiftest floods, in leafy forests and in verdant plains, to propagate their kind from age to age. Since thou alone dost govern nature's laws, and nothing without thee can rise to light, without thee nothing can look gay or lovely, I beg thee a companion to my lays, which now I sing of nature. I devote to my dear Memmius, whom thou art ever pleased, sweet goddess, to adorn with every grace. For him, kind deity, inspire my song, and give immortal beauty to my verse. Meantime, the bloody tumults of the war by sea and land compose, and lay asleep. For thou alone mankind with quiet peace canst bless, because 'tis Mars, potent in arms, that rules the bloody tumults of the war, and he, by everlasting pains of love bound fast, tastes in thy lap most sweet repose, turns back his smooth long neck, and views thy charms, and greedily sucks love at both his eyes. Supinely as he rests, his very soul hangs on thy lips. This god, dissolved in ease, in the soft moments when thy heavenly limbs cling round him, melting with eloquence, caress great goddess, and implore a peace for Rome. For neither can I write with cheerful strains in times so sad, nor can the noble house of Memmius desert the common good in such distress of things. The hours you spare apply with close attention to my verse, and free from care receive true reason's rules, nor these my gifts, prepared with faithful pains, reject with scorn before they are understood. For I begin to write of lofty themes, of gods, and of the motions of the sky, the rise of things, how all things nature forms, and how they grow, and to perfection rise, and into what, by the same nature's laws. Those things resolve and die, which, as I write, I call by various name. Sometimes 'tis matter, or the first principles, or the seeds of things, or first of bodies, whence all else proceed. For the whole nature of the gods must spend an immortality in softest peace, removed from our affairs, and separated by distance infinite, from sorrow free, secure from danger, in its own happiness sufficient, and naught of ours can want, is neither pleased with good, nor vexed with ill. Indeed, mankind in wretched bondage held lay grovelling on the ground, galled with the yoke of what is called religion. From the sky this tyrant showed her head, and with grim looks hung over us poor mortals here below, until a man of Greece with steady eyes dared look her in the face, and first opposed her power. Him not the fame of gods nor thunder's roar kept back, nor threatening tumults of the sky, but still the more they roused the active virtue of his aspiring soul, as he pressed forward first to break through nature's scanty bounds. His mind's quick force prevailed, and so he passed by far the flaming limits of this world, and wandered with his comprehensive soul o'er all the mighty space. From thence returned triumphant, told us what things may have a being, and what cannot, and how a finite power is fixed to each, a bound it cannot break. And so religion, which we feared before, by him subdued, we tread upon in turn. His conquest makes us equal to the gods. But in these things I fear you will suspect you are learning impious rudiments of reason, and entering in a road of wickedness. Oh, so far from this, reflect what sad flagitious deeds religion has produced. By her inspired the Grecian chiefs, the first of men, at Aulis, Diana's altar shamefully defiled with Iphigenia's blood, her virgin hair a fillet bound, which hung in equal length on either side of her face. She saw her father, covered with sorrow, stand before the altar. For pity to his grief, the butchering priests concealed the knife. The city at the sight overflowed with tears. The virgin, dumb with fear, fell low upon her knees on the hard earth. In vain the wretched princess in distress pleaded that she first gave honored name of father to the king, but hurried off, and dragged by wicked hands, she trembling stood before the altar. Alas, not as a virgin, the solemn forms being duly done, is drawn with pleasing force to Hymen's noble rites, but a chaste maid, just ripe for nuptial joy, falls a sad victim by a father's hand, only to beg a kind propitious gale for Grecian ships. Such scenes of villainy religion could inspire. But still I fear your caution will dispute the maxims I lay down, who all your life have trembled at the poet's frightful tales. Alas, I could even now invent such dreams as would pervert the steadiest rules of reason, and make your fortunes tremble to the bottom. No wonder, but if men were once convinced that death was the sure end of all their pains, they might with reason then resist the force of all religion, and condemn the threats of poets. Now we have no sense, no power to strive against prejudice, because we fear a scene of endless torments after death. And yet the nature of the soul we know not, whether formed with the body, or at the birth infused, and then by death cut off, she perishes as bodies do, or whether she descends to the dark caves and dreadful lakes of hell, or, after death, inspired with heavenly instinct, she retires into the brutes, as our great Ennius sung, who first a crown of laurels evergreen brought down from Helicon, which gained him fame through all the Italian coasts. And yet this man, in never-dying numbers, describes the stately palaces of Acheron, where nor our souls or bodies ever come, but certain spectres strange and wondrous pale, from whence he tells how Homer's ever-celebrated shade appeared, and how his eyes began to flow with briny tears, as in immortal verse he sung of nature and her sacred laws. Wherefore I shall not only accurately write of things above, as how the sun and moon their courses run, and by what power beings in earth and heaven are formed, but chiefly search with nicest care into the soul and what her nature is, what 'tis that meets our wakeful eyes and frights the mind, and how by sickness or by sleep oppressed we think we see or hear the voice of those who died long since, whose mouldering bones rot in the cold embraces of the grave. I know 'tis hard to explain in Latin verse the dark and mystic notions of the Greeks, for I have things to say require new words, because the tongue is poor, the subject new. But your virtue, and the pleasures I expect from tender friendship, makes me bear the toil and spend the silent night with wakeful eyes, studious of words and numbers I shall use to open your minds such scenes of light which show the hidden qualities of things unknown. These terrors of the mind, this darkness, then, not the sun's beams nor the bright rays of day can ever dispel, but nature's light and reason, whose first of principles shall be my guide. Nothing was by the gods of nothing made. For hence it is that fear disturbs the mind, that strange events in earth and heaven are seen, whose causes cannot appear by reason's eye, and then we say they were from powers divine. But when we rest convinced that nothing can arise from nothing, then the way is clear to our pursuit. We distinctly see whence everything comes into being, and how things are formed without the help and trouble of the gods. If things proceed from nothing, everything might spring from anything, and want no seed. Men from the sea might first arise, and fish and birds break from the earth, and herds and tender flocks drop from the sky, and every kind of beast fixed to no certain place might find a being in deserts or in cultivated fields. Nor the same fruit on the same trees would grow, but would be changed, and all things bear. Had not everything its genial seed, how is it that everything derives its birth from causes still the same? But now, since things are formed from certain seeds, and first rise into light, where every being has its principles and matter fitly framed, from hence we see that all things cannot spring from everything, since each has certain secret properties peculiar to itself. Why do we see the rose adorn the spring, the fruits in summer, and the sweaty autumn pressing the vine, unless the fixed seeds of things uniting in their proper times give life to beings, each in its stated season, while Mother Earth can trust her tender offspring with safety to the air? But if things proceed from nothing, in a moment they might spring at times uncertain, at quarters of the year unfit, and there would be no proper seeds, whose kindly influence might check their growth at seasons that would kill them in the bud. Again, if things could spring from naught, what need of time for bodies to fulfill their growth by accession of new matter? An infant then might instantly become a youth, and trees start up in full perfection from the earth. But 'tis not so, 'tis plain, for things, we know, grow by degrees from certain seeds, and still as they grow keep their kind. And thus you find each being rising into bulk, and thrives from seed and matter proper to itself. Nor likewise can the earth produce her fruits to cheer the heart, unless with timely showers impregnated, nor can creatures blessed with life, deprived of food, ever propagate their kind, or save their own lives. And so you safer say that certain fixed principles belong to certain things, as letters form our words, than that from nothing anything can arise. Further, whence is it that nature cannot show man so gigantic as on foot to wade through seas, or with her hands to tear up mighty hills, or to surpass the common bounds of life by many ages, but that certain seeds are fixed to all things, whence they must arise? And so we must confess that nothing springs from nothing, since each kind must proceed from seed, the principles whence every creature derives its life and feels the gentle air. Besides, because we find the earth, improved by care, exceeds the uncultivated soil, and by turning up the fruitful clods by ploughing, and by breaking up the ground, we force to spring. But then, if no such seeds lay there, the fruits without our labour would of their own accord improve, and of themselves prevent our care. Add here that nature does dissolve all bodies into their principles again, nor can reduce things into nothing. For if every being was liable to death through all its substance, snatched from our eyes, it would directly perish. No need of violence to make a breach in all its parts, and loose the vital bands. But now, since things are formed from eternal seeds, nature wills that nothing be destroyed unless some force prevails, which beats with blows its outward form, or pierces through the pores with subtle art, and so dissolves the frame. Besides, such things as are removed by age, if time destroys them quite in all its parts, when does the power of love restore to light the several race of beings? Whence the earth, with nicest art, does nourish them when born, and make them grow, and feed with proper food each its kind. When do the bounteous springs and rivers, with their wandering streams from far, supply the sea? The air, whence feed the stars? For that vast tract of time already past had long ago consumed things that were formed from mortal seed. But if those bodies which compose this universe of things were still supplied through all that space and periods of time that passed long since, they must surely consist of an immortal nature, and from death secure, can never into nothing fall. Again, the same violence would everywhere destroy all beings, if the eternal power of matter did not hold fast their close compacted frame in bonds more strong or weak. A single touch would surely be the cause of death, for things formed out of mortal seed by any force must perish, and a frame be quite dissolved. But now, because the union of seeds of bodies differs, which consist of matter eternal in its nature, every being is safe from danger till some proper force, proportioned to its texture, makes the assault. So nothing can return to nothing. Everything resolves by separation of its parts into its principles from whence it sprang. Lastly, the rains that Father Ether pours into the womb of Mother Earth do seem to perish there. But straight fair fruits spring up, the boughs grow green upon the trees, their limbs increase, and bend beneath a load of fruit. Hence all living race of men and beasts are fed, our gallant cities filled with youth, our leafy woods resound with songs of birds new-fledged. The weary flocks grow fat, repose their bodies on the fertile plains, while the white milky humour from their dugs distended flows, and hence their sprightly young in wanton play frisk with their tender limbs o'er the soft grass, cheering their little hearts with pure milk. And therefore things we see do not entirely die. Nature still renews one being by another, nor does she suffer one thing to be unless supplied with matter from something else that was dissolved before.